the basics, but I'm going to repeat it to the audience, so you'll see it when it's live.
Sounds good.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jesus Guzman, and I'm the Policy and Advocacy Director with Generation Housing. I'd like to share just a few housekeeping items before we get started this evening. First, this event is being simultaneously translated into Spanish. Este evento está siendo transmitido al español. To access that feature, click on the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen and select Spanish. Para poder acceder a la interpretación, opriman el botón al fondo de la pantalla con el globo y seleccionen español. We want to thank Claudia Mendoza, who is offering our audience live Spanish interpretation this evening. Le queremos dar las gracias a Claudia Mendoza por brindarnos este servicio para nuestra comunidad. Next, I want to share how people can access another feature that we'll be using this evening. So for this webinar, we do invite the audience to submit a question using the Q&A function that you'll also be able to find at the bottom of your screen. And we want to encourage everyone to submit a question. There's also the option of upvoting or liking questions that you'd like to see answered. So we want to encourage folks to submit questions, to upvote, and we'll get to those questions right after the moderated discussion portion of tonight's agenda. So just to go over what will be covered this evening, we'll be just doing a couple of minutes of welcome and introductions here. We'll get a chance to hear from the candidates tonight in terms of their opening remarks. We'll spend most of this evening in the moderated discussion portion of the agenda, and we'll make sure that we leave some time for everybody to join us also at the end. And so we'll have a closing remarks at the very end, and then we'll wrap up and we'll make sure we get everybody out by 8 o'clock this evening. We really appreciate everybody joining us. So again, thank you for that. So want to offer just a few words just to help, I think, frame the conversation for this evening before I turn it over to our moderator, Alan Ramey, who will be helping facilitate tonight's discussion. We're really grateful for the opportunity to discuss the future of housing. We've done a few webinars thus far with several other cities, and we're really excited about getting a chance to discuss housing in Windsor. But tonight, we're hoping to center the challenges that families face in trying to afford housing in Windsor and in Sonoma County as a whole. Just a few stats that I want to share, just again to help, I think, frame the conversation and offer some data points. According to the Bay Area Equity Atlas, about 49% of local renters pay more than 30% of their income on housing, meaning that they're considered to be housing cost burdened. And some face even bigger burdens, as about 1 in 5 Windsor residents are severely housing cost burdened, meaning that they pay over half of their income on housing. So we've got many of our local residents here that are dealing with significant housing costs as a challenge. And we couple this with the fact that since 2010, we've also seen an increased share of Windsor residents that are considered extreme commuters. And admittedly, that used to be me at a certain point when I was commuting to Oakland. This is defined as somebody that drives over 90 minutes to work. And that's a growing share of the number of folks in our communities. Of course, the pandemic has changed our work arrangements, but it certainly has been the case up until this point. So between commuting long distances and continuing to pay more and more for housing, the lack of housing that is affordable to all of our residents is really one of the biggest challenges that our neighbors and our local leadership face when it comes to making decisions. So, but I think one of the biggest opportunities that we also have to improve people's lives, health, and our environment. So with that, tonight is an opportunity to understand housing as integral to our future and hear from some of our local candidates about their views, approaches, and strategies for how to improve housing affordability. So we're really grateful to have this opportunity to host an informational webinar to talk about housing here in Windsor. So with that, I want to turn it over to Alan. Alan Ramey is with the Wine Country Young Voters. We're really excited to be partnering with an organization that's civically engaged and looking to get people plugged into the into local decision making. So want to welcome Alan. Alan, thank you so much for being with us and helping moderate tonight's discussion.
Thank you, Jesus. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you to all the candidates for coming. I'm really honored to be able to represent the young voters on such an important issue as housing. Very quickly, I'll be going over the rules for tonight, and then we'll jump straight into the candidates' question and answer. Firstly, candidates will be given a minute and a half to offer an opening statement and a closing statement, 2 minutes for the closing statement. The moderated discussion will range from 25 to 30 minutes. During the moderated discussion, candidates will be asked 3 to 4 questions, depending on time, and candidates will have 1 to 2 minutes each to respond to the questions asked by the moderator, which is myself. There will be an audience Q&A section in which members of the public will be able to ask a question of the candidates. Now I'd like to introduce the town council candidates for Windsor. The residents of Windsor will be electing a mayor and a town council member from District 3 in this year's elections. First, the mayoral candidates: Rosa Reynosa, Dominic Fopoli, Tanya Potter, Sam Salmon. And afterwards, we have one candidate present from the District 3 race, Deborah Fudge. Jeff Leisure, the other candidate from District 3, was unable to join us this evening. Next, we'll have the opening statements for each candidate. Each candidate will have a maximum of a minute and a half, although they can choose shorter time if they'd wish, to offer their opening statements. We're starting with Rosa, then Dominic, then Tanya, Sam, and we'll close opening remarks with Deborah. Rosa, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. So I'm Rosa Reynosa, and I'm running for mayor of Windsor. This is the first time our residents will be able to elect a mayor for Windsor. It's a great chance for you guys to get out there and vote. So I know that the current council could be made better with the new voice, and I want to be that new voice. I am the change that Windsor needs. I live, work, and play in Windsor. I have been here since 1979. I'm a working mother who wants Windsor to thrive, be well-planned, and grow smartly for all of us, especially our children. I want a community that is livable for all. I currently am a member of the Sonoma County Area Agency on Aging, where I am the chair for the Housing Committee. So housing is very, very important to me, as I know it is for all of you, especially our viewers. I have managed multi-million-dollar budgets and contracts for a local winery. I have a business background and skills that's going to help me keep our town moving in the right direction and on track for financial stability and balance. As mayor, I promise to always listen and consider each and every opinion in Windsor. I want to represent you and represent the Windsor that we all love. I hope that I can earn your trust and receive your vote as mayor of Windsor. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. Next, we're going to Dominic Fopoli. Dominic?
Thank you, Alan, and thank you guys for hosting this forum. We've had a few of these now, so instead of just reading off of a script, I'm just going to speak from my heart. I'm running for mayor because I love this town. I grew up here. I went to school here, and I came back after college to make a life here. And this forum specifically speaks my heart because it was something that I dealt with wanting to come back to Windsor. It's how do you afford to live here? So I was fortunate enough with timing. I came back, shared, rented apartment above the town green, and then finally was able to make enough to rent a house in a neighborhood until finally, because of hard work and honestly timing, I was able to buy in 2011 a home with a whole bunch of roommates living in it. So I realized firsthand how difficult it is, and how much of a challenge it is to live in the town that we all call home. So for me, it's something that I've been keeping at the front of my mind since I've been in public service in Windsor. So if anyone's not familiar, I spent 2 years on the Planning Commission trying to work on and help and learn and design housing for all of Windsor. I've always believed in a diversity of housing when it comes to the idea that if you grew up in Windsor, you should be able to live here and you should be able to age here. I then spent 2 years as a council member, 2 years as vice mayor, now 2 years as mayor. And I am looking for our residents' support to continue that work, because I want to make sure that all of my colleagues, everybody who's in, kind of the younger generation, can afford to actually live in the town that they love and that they call home. So that's my big push right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic. Next, we have Tanya Potter. Tanya.
Great, thank you, Alan and Jesus, for hosting us tonight. My husband and I have lived here in Windsor for the last 16 years. We moved here specifically to put our children into the Windsor School District, and we have struggled being both full-time working parents to own a home here in Windsor. And there's been times when we have been able to, and there's been times when we haven't been able to. And so we know that affordable housing is extremely important here. And we know that right now, it wouldn't be possible for our adult son to come back here to live on his own. So I do believe that we need more housing here in Windsor. I believe that we need to change some of our regulations so that we can get our housing projects in much faster. That's what causes housing to skyrocket in price when it takes years and years and years for a development to come to fruition. We do have to balance affordable housing with market rate housing for our town. We also have to balance our growth restrictions that we have. We aren't a huge town. We don't have a lot of room. And so I do support zoning that allows for mixed housing. And I'm also super committed to the foster community. And my husband and I have been foster parents for the last 10 years. We've fostered 11 children in addition to our own children. And we know that those populations struggle to find housing after they age out. And so we think that that's extremely important and needs to be addressed in the housing in Sonoma County. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tanya. Next, we have Sam Salmon. Sam?
Good evening and thank you. 26 years ago, I became involved in a political race to be on the council, and it was all about stopping sprawl and preserving open space 26 years ago. And it still is that issue. And why is preserving open space and stopping sprawl important? It's important because it counters affordability. The idea to be able to have our young people establish themselves in their town, in their future, is integral to them and it's integral to the town. So we have challenges, and it really is about nuances for me, affordable housing. We have two types of affordable housing. If you go on the website, you'll see one is capital AF, that means it's subsidized. And then we have the other small a, small f, and that's affordable by design. And we have to have a combination. And so I don't think that I think what I have to say is it's not build, baby, build. It's how you build and how you work with developers to establish a program that will bring housing, city-centered, town-centered housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. And we'll be closing with Deborah Fudge.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm Deb Fudge. I live in District 3, which is in the eastern side of Windsor. And my neighborhood is actually in the old part of Windsor where Windsor was founded, behind the Catholic Church. I live down that street. And I don't tell this story very often, but I moved here in 1990. And the house that I did buy was a 1934 farmhouse, dilapidated with no foundation. Eventually I lifted it up and put a foundation under it, but that's the house I could afford. I have since fixed it up, but it was hard to buy a house here even in 1990. And the only reason I could is my grandfather left me enough money for a down payment. So I was lucky. I was one of the lucky ones. So I've been involved in Windsor for a long time. I was on the Planning Commission in 1994. I ran for council in 96 to change the development pattern of Windsor. Everybody had quarter-acre lots then and a lot of cul-de-sacs. All the houses were the same and there wasn't enough diversity in housing here. And I ran so that we could plan the downtown, the town green. We could make sure it got built, which we did, and start to introduce mixed use and condos and apartments to Windsor, a different type of housing than Windsor really had, which people in Windsor then were really afraid of. They called it high density, low income housing, and they really didn't want it, but we have it now and we're working on getting more. I've helped design a lot of the neighborhoods here, and I think it takes experienced leadership to keep a small town atmosphere and grow at the same time, provide the housing that we need.
Thank you, Deborah, and thanks to all the candidates for sticking within your allotted times. It's appreciated. Now we'll move into the moderated discussion. We've randomized the speaking order, so everyone will have a chance to go first and last. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to answer. Our first question is on new housing. How would you characterize the set of challenges facing housing production? And what do you plan to do to help overcome these challenges? We'll start with Sam, then Tanya, then Deborah, Rosa, and finally Dominic. Sam,
Okay.
straight to you.
So housing production in Windsor, we have an example down at near the Walmart of new housing, beautiful homes on small lots. Our market rate means what? $650,000 to $1 million. And they're tract homes, but they're very attractive. So how do you do it? You have to nuance. The town owns property. We have to look at our town-owned property and really find out how we can emphasize access and make that happen. And that hasn't happened on the council. I've asked for access to 2 projects, and it's just kind of gone over everybody's head. Affordable housing costs between $400,000 and $500,000 a unit. If you do the mortgage rates, it doesn't pencil out. So it is affordability by design, and we have to really have long and intense talks with developers. And if they can't do it, then it doesn't get done. Because if we build market rate housing, what we've seen in the example in the Press Democrat, a single woman bought a new house in Windsor, 2,800 square feet, single woman. The other example in that article was a couple, again, bought a single family home, 2,800 square feet. That's not what we're going to do because they create the need for more service. So we really have to look at a different model. Tiny houses, etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Next, we'll go to Tanya Potter.
Thank you, Alan. So I actually disagree with a portion of what Mr. Salmon said there. Having long discussions with developers is what is killing our ability to produce housing in Windsor. And that is something that we struggle with here in Windsor. There's a housing development that's been going on and has been in an approval process for 12 years. My children are going to be grown and out of the house before that housing project ever gets built. Coupled with expensive materials, it's very expensive to build here. And with all the fires that we've had, it's even more expensive to build. We know that, but time and the significant amount of regulation and planning that goes into the town of Windsor currently for our market rate housing and for affordable housing is really causing problems for us to produce housing in numbers and affordability. With new state law changes, we're going to be able to fast track, or it's not really fast, but faster affordable housing here and throughout the state, which hopefully will increase the amount of housing that's available. We are very far behind in the state of California, which definitely impacts us here in Sonoma County. And with, as I said before, our growth boundaries that we have in here in Windsor, we need to be thoughtful about where we put housing and what our density is like. We do want to have higher density housing so that we can have enough housing for everyone to have that affordability by design, so that even our market rate houses are possibly a little bit priced a little lower. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanya. Next, we have Deborah Fudge.
Thank you. I'm not running against Tanya, but I need to correct something she said. She said we've got, it takes 12 years to approve projects here, and that's not true. Actually, those projects have been approved for 12 years. A different developer started over. That one's been approved for 4 years. The problem we're having with the units that we've approved, especially downtown, we've got 687 apartments ready to be built. They've been approved for years. It's financing. The developers are having trouble with financing. And so that's a problem I haven't been able to crack yet. Although if those developments fail, we're already looking for new developers to take their place and get those built. But in terms of housing here, we need more diversity in housing. We've owned a property at Bluebird, which we intend to build affordable housing in the future. It's a town-owned property. I've been trying to get cottages and smaller units built in a subdivision in Windsor that our other problem is NIMBYs. We have NIMBYs who don't want smaller housing near them. They don't want roads to connect with them. And so that's something that we really need to work on, is communicating with those neighborhoods to let them know that that housing is not scary. Smaller housing is not scary, just like the people 26 years ago thought the apartments downtown were too, and the condos were too scary, and they're not scary. They really love those now. So it's a lot about education, building accessory dwelling units with existing housing, which we've just done in another housing development in Windsor.
Thank you, Deborah. Next, we're moving to Rosa Reynosa.
So my idea is to partner up with more organizations. The perception right now is that we are very slow in building anything in Windsor. We have a lot of empty lots that are fenced up, waiting to get built. It feels like a very slow process. And so something that just happened this week was the Kashia-Pomo tribe came to the Planning Commission, and they're partnering up with Burbank Housing. What a great idea. So we have over 2,900 nonprofits in Sonoma County. I'm not sure how many of them are involved in housing, but if we can tap into those resources and figure out how to work with them so that we can make these housing dreams for people. And it's so sad that it's a dream to have a roof over your head, but it is for so many people here in Windsor. That development that's going to be built, hopefully for the Kashia-Pomo Indians, we can build that 3 times over and it will get filled immediately. So my ideas are to tap into resources, partner up with people, nonprofits, and definitely think outside the box. Think outside the box, even if it means people laughing at you because your idea seems silly. You know, that's what we need. We need people on this council who will bring forward ideas that can become reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. And we'll close this section with Dominic Vipoli. Dominic?
Sure. So I want to actually thank Rosa for pointing out what we're doing right now. I'm very proud of our planning commission for pushing that project forward on Tuesday night. We've actually, for those people who don't realize, we've approved in our building or have built more affordable housing than we have market rate in the last 6 years that I've been on this council. So affordable housing, we're kind of figuring out. We have great partnerships that we've done in the past with Burbank. It's unfortunate what happened with Habitat for Humanity. That was a greater regional problem. It was not for us doing everything in Windsor's power to try to support them. But with that said, we do need to figure out even more options to make financing actually happen. There's a reason why the banks aren't financing some of these projects. Some of them are too risky, but some of them we need to figure out how we can work together and come with some collaborative ideas. One thing that I would love to see, a lot of people don't realize, but the school district has a beautiful, perfect open lot, area with a lot of open lot where they closed down their school that I would personally love to see teacher housing. So I would like to see the town council work with the school district in figuring how we can take Windsor Creek and build much needed housing for our teachers and also for some of our town workers so that they can more readily afford to live in the town that they contribute to so much.
Thank you, Dominic. Moving to our next question now. As part of the recent outreach by the town of Windsor regarding multifamily residential objective design standards, one of the short informational videos led by Jim Hyde states that the town of Windsor in 2010 was made up of 80% single-family homes. Yet present constraints and needs suggest that multifamily would be a more efficient use of land in order to provide more housing. What strategies would you support in order to foster a diversity of housing types in Windsor? We'll start with Dominic, then Deborah, Rosa, Sam, and we'll close with Tanya. Dominic, take it away.
Alan, you think you finally found a topic that we're going to have some diversity on, and I look forward to hearing the responses that are probably going to be different than the rest of my colleagues on here. So one of the fundamental things that I think that makes Windsor such a great community is home ownership and the dream of home ownership. The fact that people strive to own their own home in this town is the reason why I'm always hesitant to approve too much rental housing. I mean, I was a renter, and I think that definitely has a place. But the idea is I never want there to be just rental housing. And so much what we've seen in the last half decade has been a lot of rental housing that's not single family rental. It's a big corporation out of Southern California or a big corporation out of a different area that wants to make a bunch of money and move it out to a different area through renting to our residents. So what I want to see and what I'm going to continue to fight for is the dream of homeownership in our amazing town, because I think that's what makes Windsor the great community it is that either it's owning your own home or the desire to be able to do that someday. And that's going to, and I know that I'm seeing some of my colleagues smile right now, because this is something I push back on all the time, is that I completely understand and will support multifamily housing, but I prefer to see it as a condo or something where eventually that the person who's living in it can buy it and then create equity of their own.
Thank you, Dominic. Next, we're going to Deborah Fudge.
Thank you. Jim Hyde is exactly right. And I think the number was 85% before he said 80%. And that's what I've been trying to change in Windsor and that's what I said earlier, was every house here was on a quarter-acre lot, and almost all of them in a cul-de-sac, it seemed like. And so we've been trying to, what we've done downtown is we went to 16 units per acre. We were willing to go to 32 units an acre downtown. That development didn't go through. It was a long time ago, but you increase your densities, you create different types of housing. What we're doing now is creating, there's some housing in Ventana, Vintage Greens, that has accessory dwelling units as a second floor. So it has a separate entrance, and you build with the new housing an accessory dwelling unit on top with a separate entrance. So that creates more diverse housing as well. With the apartments downtown that Dominic was referring to, there are two large complexes. They total 687 units. I also wish they weren't all apartments. I wish half were condos. We also are trying to get them to be different in size: 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedrooms, even studios. So whether you own it or rent it, that all different types, income types, and even people who are older who want to downsize can buy something smaller and then leave their larger house for another person. So it's all about really getting us down to more of a healthy mix, which might be 60-40, 50-50. And it will take time to get there, but we're actively working on that right now.
Thank you, Deborah. Next, we'll go to Rosa Reynosa.
So I actually agree with Dominic, and I think it's important to have the feeling and the pride of owning your home. But we also have to ensure if we're going to keep it at that percentage, we have to, again, tap into resources so that anyone living in subsidized housing or in an apartment have some kind of step program. You know, my sister, I have a sister who started out, was a teenage, had a teenage pregnancy, and she was really lucky with not only family support, but just a hard worker, and who slowly got out of a small 1-bedroom unit with her family of 5, and then got into Burbank housing, an apartment. And from there, now she's a homeowner in Windsor through the Home Sweat Equity Program. So that took some time, but at least it was possible. And I think we can work with more organizations to help people move in that direction. And that would free up apartments. That would free up, housing that's subsidized. So, and I know our older adults, a lot of them are keeping their homes because when they have family come visit from out of town, they can't afford hotel rooms here. So they love having their big house because out of guests come over and stay with them in their home. So we really have to reach out, tap into the community, know what their needs are, and work with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. Next, we'll go to Sam Salmon. Sam, you're on mute.
You know, our problem with market rate housing is there's no market. Tanya, I know you'd like your children to buy, but where are they going to get the down payment for a $600,000 home unless you provide it? Yeah, it's so I think it's more in terms of thinking in the future and building for the future. So I think we do have to build multifamily, and it has to be downtown, and it has to be active, and it has to be something that people want. And I think we have a great start. In fact, I'm right down here right now in my car, listening to music at the town green right now. And it's a wonderful thing. And so as time goes on, people will be able to move to that multifamily and leave their big homes. And maybe those will become affordable. But for us to build market rate, we're seeing people coming from the South Bay because they have equity. And they can afford a $700,000 home because they can sell their home for $700,000, and it's just a switch. So I think the key is really well designed, affordable by design, and really building community. And we have a really good start, but it takes a lot of thought. There was no thought given into the Bisno project across from me. I didn't support it, and most of the people that are incumbents that are running, they did. It's bullshit Los Angeles development.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you. Next, we'll go to Tanya Potter to close out this section. Tanya.
Thanks, Alan. You're right, Sam. My son can't buy a $700,000 house here in Windsor, and that's what I'm saying. We do need some affordable housing. And I think that maybe Dominic was surprised that we all actually support home ownership here in Windsor. What we are missing is that section of missing middle, right? The houses that are affordable for families to purchase and gain equity. I do support the multifamily housing and higher density housing, especially in the downtown area. What I do want to make sure that we always are thoughtfully considering is how we are going to get everyone out of those areas in the case of an emergency. We have had some evacuation issues the past couple of years and problems with evacuation routes. And I want to make sure that that is always in the forefront of our mind when we are putting housing in high density areas. But I do believe that we need to be able to have our community members own those homes. That is part of the American dream. And I don't think that that part of our American dream is lost. I think that we can create that here in Windsor. And those houses that are, 300 to 500,000 and maybe even a lower and not just opening up only rental apartments. I don't think that that is fair to the families if they can't look forward to home ownership here. And I want to see that available. And I encourage everyone to go onto the town website right now and take the survey, and they can be a part of designing the objective housing right now for affordable housing here in Windsor for the future.
Thank you, Tanya. That closes out this section of the questions. I just want to take this time to remind the audience that you can ask a question too. Go to the comment section and put your question in. And remember, for other questions that you like, remember to upvote them. So that is the question that I will ask when we get to that audience question, which will be coming very soon. That next question I have is about homelessness in Windsor. The Board of Supervisors are moving forward with a plan to address homelessness countywide by establishing a navigation center in each district. How do you envision your city collaborating with the county to address the issue of homelessness? We'll start with Sam, then Rosa, Dominic, Tanya, and then Deborah. Sam, take it away.
I think we just have to listen to new ideas, because the ideas that are coming forth they're not working. I read the comments in the Press Democrat and they're just appalling. it is really difficult to interact with the homeless. They are so discouraged that they really won't communicate. So how do we do it? Well, if we really wanted to, we could accommodate the homeless to a certain extent. But what I see in the comments and what I feel in this community, the Windsor community, is we really don't want to deal with the homeless. Our policies for the last 15 to 20 years have been to give a rather generous donation to the Redwood Empire Gospel facility to kind of feel good about providing some support to the homeless in Santa Rosa. I don't think this community really wants to reach out and have a homeless population. There's a real tragic story about our one homeless person that I'm aware of. Really tragic. Most of the homeless have mental or abuse problems too. When I say most, I'd say like 50%. But there are families out there that are just lost their homes. And I don't know how we're going to do it with what's happening right now. I don't have the answer.
Thank you, Sam. Next, we'll go to Rosa Reynosa.
So I am on the board for Reach for Home, and I've been involved with them for a few years now. Started out just as volunteering because my passion is to go out and help. And there's a lot of stigma and fear with homelessness. And yes, drugs, alcohol, mental illness, that all can be very scary. But we have to remember they're humans and they need a helping hand. We have the largest homeless population, meaning California. And it's about, we have to remember that a lot of them are veterans. About, I think over 20% here in California are homeless veterans. That is just so sad. And here in Windsor, Dominic, I'm going to steal your thunder again. We're building a veterans village, which is great. Got support from the state, from the Sonoma County, and from Windsor to get this built. But I think the word navigation center scares people even more, saying it's going to attract more people. But we have to just design it in a way where it really is a place for resources and it directs them to where they want to get help. And the only people it's going to attract are the ones that want the help. So that's what we have to remember. That's who we're trying to tap into. Those who are ready to get the help they need are the ones that are going to utilize a navigation center. Whatever it's going to look like, hopefully the town comes together and creates it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rosa. Next, we have Dominic Fapoli. Okay, and for whoever has that on the background, could you please remember to mute yourself if you're not speaking? Thank you. Dominic, go ahead. Dominic, you're on mute as well. Other folks need to mute, not you.
Yeah, exactly. We're all over the place.
It's hard, I know.
So I'm going to take a little bit of a different take on this. I'm proud of the efforts that Windsor has made and continues to make. I'm proud of the fact that we have one of the lowest rates of homelessness in the region per capita. And personally, I support doing everything we can, which we do, to prevent homelessness with our current population. I and the rest of our council has always been very supportive of doing whatever we can to provide a safety net for our current residents. And we do that through, as it was mentioned, we financially through our support for various organizations in the area, including Reach for Home, which is an organization I know Rosa is very passionate about. I've also personally and through my business been supportive of in the past. I want to and continue to work with other organizations. Catholic Charities does amazing work. My girlfriend Amy would kill me if I didn't mention that, since she's the director there, and always reminds me of all of the work that is being done by the nonprofits in this area. And I want to continue to support everything we can do to keep our current residents in Windsor from becoming homeless. And I think that we're doing well. We can always do better, and supporting the Windsor Service Alliance as we do, and the other amazing nonprofits in our community, along with simple things like, which we already have, of having some lenience when people aren't able to pay their bills for municipal services.
Thank you, Dominic. Next, we'll go to Tanya Potter.
Thank you. So I have spent a good deal of my life, my adult life, working with the homeless population, and they are a difficult population to work with, especially our high risk, high need homeless population. And like Rosa and Dominic mentioned already, the people where we get the most results and where it's easiest to prevent homelessness is when people are at risk for homelessness and they're already housed, but they're struggling. And so working with the county to make sure that those families are supported is going to be the very best way that we can work towards not increasing our homeless numbers. Having a navigation center in our district, we don't even know for sure where that might go and what that might mean for the town of Windsor. But we do, as Rosa mentioned, those people who are trying to become housed are the people who are going to be housed. They will be able to get housing if they are trying to. Where we struggle as a county and where we struggle as a state is the population of people who aren't ready to be housed. And how do we approach them? And how do we find a solution to that problem? And I think we need to work collaboratively with all agencies, and we need to be open to solutions, because if homelessness was easy to solve, it would have been solved a long time ago. And it would have been solved in every country in our world, but it's not. It's a very difficult, and people become homeless for so many different reasons that it's hard to have a broad solution to it. And so we need to be open and willing to look at all solutions.
Thank you, Tanya. We'll close with Deborah Fudge.
Thank you. A lot of what I was going to say has been said, but so I might repeat a little bit of it. In Windsor, we don't have a lot of homeless because we don't have the services here to serve them. And so that's why you see, I think, more homeless in certain areas of Santa Rosa, at least where there are soup kitchens and places where they can at least receive some assistance. But we actually, Supervisor Gore got a bunch of us together in the North County, and I served for a little while on his homeless task force. He got together the cities of Windsor, Healdsburg, Geyserville, and Cloverdale so we could work together as a region and try to address the homeless that we do have. I think Cloverdale have a few more than we do, and Healdsburg as well. So we were trying to work together as a group. Now the county is forming another group where we will be official members, I think countywide, and a council member will be assigned to that group to actually work more specifically together. And as everybody mentioned, as a town, we've sent money to a homeless organization in Santa Rosa. We've donated to the Red Wing Empire Food Bank. We've tried to keep people in their homes. We also have as Dominic referred to, our water utilities right now. We are not shutting people off for non-payment during COVID because we know a lot of people have lost their jobs and we don't want them to become homeless. So we try to do what we can. I'm very proud of our 60-unit Veterans Village, which is now under construction and halfway built. I think we should look at temporary housing like we did after the Tubbs fire and maybe create modular units county-wide, a la the model that we did after the Tubbs fire for people who had just lost their homes.
Thank you, Deborah. We'll now go to audience questions. As a quick reminder, please remember to comment your question into the Q&A so that I will have a chance to ask it. We have our first question. Is there a plan to address housing for adults with disabilities? The question asker notes she has a 19-year-old autistic son. Would anyone like to lead off with that?
I can.
Thank you, Deborah. Go ahead. We have 1 minute.
We did have a plan. We had a man who lived in Windsor who had an autistic son, and he was from the South Bay. He wanted to move up here, move his 20-something-year-old son here, and we found property. We helped him find property, and he was going to build, actually really close to our Veterans Villages, a village of homes for people that were autistic and needed help. He lost some of his funding and that project went away, but we were totally open to it. And I would love to see a project like that come back. It was just 3 or 4 years ago that the project failed. And so if that person is still out there, we would love to have something like that again, because it would be, I think it was going to serve 30 people and there would be a resident on site to help them. And it was near downtown so that they could walk and get a lot of the services that they needed without having to drive, of course. And so we'd love to see that project come back.
Thank you, Deborah. I see Dominic's hand first.
Sure, and I want to echo that. That was something that was probably the hardest and also most one of the most proud nights I've had on council, because unfortunately, I mean, the word's been already been thrown out, NIMBYs, not in my backyard people, for a project that our council fully realized was tremendous from our community. And when, our current council has been this way for years, when we say that we want to have Windsor be a home for everybody who lives here and grew up here, it means everybody. And that was a project that I hope we can figure out how to bring it back, that would and will provide places for residents who live in Windsor just like the rest of us to be able to thrive and live a happy life. And I'm going to want to do everything in my power to help support a program like that, or the same one coming back.
Thank you, Dominic. I didn't see, Tanya Potter, and then we'll go to the next question we have in the Q&A. Go ahead, Tanya, 1 minute.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I would be fully supportive of a housing project that would allow, that would support disabled adults. I have a severely autistic nephew, and I worry every day where he's going to go as adult, and when he's an adult, and how he is going to be cared for, and how he's going to be independent. And I know that there's not a place for that right now. That we do have a place for disabled seniors here, which has been fantastic for our community, but there is a long wait list for that, and it does allow an opportunity here in Windsor for disabled adult seniors to be housed, and I think those are fantastic projects, and I would hope that a development such as Burbank Housing would be willing to work with the town to create something like that for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. We have our next question. This question is from Judy Gersel. In 2008, Windsorland Mobile Home Park residents were evicted for the sake of a proposed development, including a shopping center and mixed income housing, with 40% designated as very low or moderate income. Today, the housing site is a wasteland. The developer has been granted multiple extensions and allowed to pay $2 million in lieu of building affordable housing. What changes do you propose to prevent the situation from occurring again? I'll open it up to the floor.
Okay.
I see Sam's hand first, and then I'll go to Rosa.
Oh, thank you. I think she's referring to the Bisno project at Oliver's. What occurred is it wasn't a good project. Mr. Gallagher had presented a project that was much better, and he sold it to Mr. Bisno. The idea is that when we talk about we sold the low-income housing for $2 million, we sold some moderate housing, 120% of the average income of Windsor, which meant that the rents were going to be $2,500 a month. And that didn't seem to me to be low income. And it looked like we should take the money. But it's all meaningless because there's been no money. The project hasn't moved forward. The in lieu fees have not been paid. And if the project doesn't go, they won't be paid. And you're right. It should have never went forward like it is. We should have held Mr. Gallagher to his promise.
Thank you, Sam. Rosa Reynosa.
So my understanding was that that piece of land was part of Oliver's, and it was zoned as mixed use. And they decided to do one portion the business and the other portion apartments. And so one of the things we should have done is you have to build the housing first. We have to get those housing in there first. And so that's one thing we could have done. But we also could have dug into this developer a little bit more and seen his history. And I think we would have known that he did have some really bad deals down south also. So making sure that we find developers that we can work with and we can trust. And then this third thing would be to stop allowing extensions. I know we're allowed so many, but at a certain point we have to just put our foot down and say, no, sorry, no more extensions. Thank you.
We'll go to Deborah.
So we The one thing we did was let Gallagher split the project. He said he would build the housing and then he changed his mind. I did not like that first project that he had. It was 3 large apartment buildings that looked like 3-story blocks. So I very hesitantly approved that to get housing downtown. I actually liked the project better when it got approved with the new developer. However, you can't control his loss of financing, and that's exactly what happened. And you under law you give extensions because you don't want the whole project to go away, and you need to give them a chance to move forward with that. Some of the money, I actually voted no on taking the in lieu fee for the moderate housing, and I was the singular vote that voted no. I wanted to hold him to that. Actually went home and cried that night. But yeah, we should have in retrospect required the housing be built at the same time and not have split the project.
Thank you. That concludes the time we have for public comment. Thank you for your questions. We'll now go to closing statements. Earlier in the program, I'd said we had 2 minutes for closing, but we went a little longer to answer the public, so that'll be reduced to 1.5 minutes. So we'll start with our closing statements with Deborah Fudge, then Sam Salmon, Tanya Potter, Dominic Fapoli, and then Rosa Reynosa. Deborah, floor is yours.
Thank you. I want to thank you for focusing for Generation Housing and Wine Country Young Voters for hosting this tonight and giving us a chance to really just talk about housing instead of all the other things that we've been asked in the other forums. It really helped to concentrate us, I think. My pledge to Windsor is that I will continue to try to build diverse housing here, all different types, cottages, attached units, and something for first-time home buyers, renters, people who want to downsize. Those accessory dwelling units I'm really excited about. I will continue to be open to addressing the housing challenges that we face, and I'm open to new ideas and creative ideas. I'm looking at other communities, but anybody in town who has some cool ideas for something that we haven't done yet, come forward and we will listen. I want to talk about climate change for a second. All new housing must be zero net energy for climate reasons, and that also makes the housing more affordable and lowers utility costs for the people who live there, which then makes their units more affordable to live in, whether they rent or own, because they're paying far less in utility bills. So we need to think past the cost of providing solar on homes and zero net energy and just do it. And we need to make that a requirement to meet our climate change goals. And then I just want to thank everybody for listening tonight, and just vote. Vote up and down the whole ballot. Don't skip anything. Vote for all the measures, vote for your president, vote for your city council people. Just please vote. And thank you so much for listening tonight.
Thank you, Deborah. Next, we'll go to Sam Salmon.
Oh, so my campaign for mayor is fairly limited. In fact, it's really limited, but it was based on issues, and one was housing and one was planning. And really the key issue that I have is that I'm opposed now to the town building new housing for itself, for its government, and failing to provide housing for people that live here, for the kids, for the old folks. And it just takes a lot of thought and a lot of nuance. You know, we have the state coming in with regulations that we can either feel threatened by or we can embrace. And I think we have to embrace them, because I think they're right. We have to have the ability to provide higher density, city-centered growth, town-centered growth. And we're lucky. We have 2 new projects coming on across from our Bluebell property. We have a lot of projects coming on. And we had a project called from YREC, which talked about the concessions that a town has to provide when a developer develops affordable housing. That's with capital AF. And I think we have to embrace that. We have to educate people about it. And then we can maybe see some affordability. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Next, we'll go to Tanya Potter.
Ellen, again, I want to thank you guys so much for putting this forum on. Talking about housing has been great tonight. I do support housing. As I said before, we want our children to come back and live here. We have about 9,100 households, sorry, in Windsor, and they have children, and those children are going to grow up, and we're going to want them to come back and be able to purchase homes in our town. And so that means we have to continue building, and we don't have a lot of room to build, and we don't necessarily want sprawl. So we are going to have to build more densely. And as long as we can build densely and to be able to safely have emergency services provided to our town, I am all for that. And I think that our town green is darling. And I think that that is, that's high density housing. And if we can add more housing that fits into that model, into the downtown area, I think that that's going to be fantastic for the town of Windsor. Again, I encourage everyone to please go on to the Town of Windsor website and participate in the survey so you can be a part of choosing what the town can look like for that new affordable housing coming with the state changes. And I also want to say, vote for Tanya Potter. We need a new voice in the town council, one who's willing to listen and one who's willing to make changes and help make our town safe and able to best respond to our future emergencies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tanya. Next, we'll go to Dominic Fapoli.
Thank you, Alan, and to both organizations for hosting this. This is great to be able to really drill into the issues. So for me, we can always be better, but I'm very, very proud of the work that our town has been doing, not only in the 6 years that I've been on council, but for the couple of years before that I was planning commission and for the decades before me. And it's been a lot of really strong, committed leaders, and includes two people who are on this Zoom tonight. So thank you for teaching me and being mentors to me for the last 8 years now. It's been a long time, planning commission and council. The reality, though, is that for Windsor, as I said, we could always be better, but we're not in that bad of a place. So according to the Sonoma County Economic Development Board, we are the most affordable city in Sonoma County when you input the average household income with the average cost of housing. So for Windsor residents, it's rough, but it's still better than the other 8 cities in the county. With that, the other reason why we have a problem with affordability in Windsor is because it's such an amazing town that we live in. And I think that I want to end on a positive note. That's the bright side of things, is that a lot of people want to live here. And that's why no matter how much that we build and what we come up with, we've created such an amazing community because of all of us, that we're always going to be a desirable place to live. So it's going to be an ongoing challenge for housing.
Thank you, Dominic. And we'll closing remarks with Rosa Reynosa.
So thank you, Alan. Thank you, Generation Housing. And especially thank you for translating this into Spanish. It's so important to reach out to our Spanish-speaking community. So I really, really appreciate that. Y si hablo español, si alguien quiere comunicarse conmigo. And I just wanted to say that I started attending town council meetings in 2015, early 2016, I was attending, and I didn't feel like I was being listened to. So that's why I started running for council. That's why I'm here, because attending almost 80% of our meetings and feeling that I stand up there and some of the thinking outside the box ideas are a joke or they don't take me seriously. Well, maybe having a seat at the table, I'll finally be heard and my ideas will be considered. So I think it's important, like Tanya said, add a new voice. Add a voice that is out there. I've been in homes where in the living room is a bedroom. In the garage are 2 bedrooms. People are struggling. People have to live in Fairfield, in Lake County, in Mendocino to be able to live, and then they have to drive to Sonoma County to work. So something has to change, and I'm that person to help make that change. So vote for Rosa Reynosa. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa, and thanks to all the candidates for a really great discussion tonight. I really appreciated what every one of you had to say, and I'm sure the audience did as well. I'm sorry to the audience members whose questions we did not get to, but I'm sure you'll be able to reach out to each and every one candidate tonight, go to their websites, and I'm sure they'd be happy to answer your questions personally. I want to turn it back to Jesus for a few closing remarks. Jesus.
Hi, everyone. It's a nifty little magic trick I've got there. Good to see everyone. And first off, I want to thank Alan, our moderator, who did a fantastic job, really, for helping shepherd this conversation along. And want to thank the candidates for joining us and delving into some of the really important issues that all of our residents are facing. I'm a recent Windsor, just recently moved to Windsor, so I'm excited to be. I'm especially excited to hear from everybody here. So Generation Housing, again, we are a nonprofit advocacy organization here in Sonoma County. We're focused on increasing the supply, diversity, and affordability of housing in every one of our communities. So I want to make a pitch to everybody in the audience here on Zoom or on Facebook Live to join Generation Housing as a member. We are a membership-driven organization, so we want to hear your voices. We want to have you also participate in events just like this one this evening, and the many more events that we have coming up. So want to encourage everybody to join us. I'll drop the link in the chat function for.
Okay.
Oh, looks like Jesus just dropped out.
Yep.
But I'll just close out by saying thank you to everyone again. I just wanted to let you know. Oh, there's Jesus. All right, we're closing it up. I just want to let everyone know we'll be posting a video recording of today's webinar on our YouTube channel by tomorrow. So please share that with anyone who you want to be able to hear what you had to say tonight. To the gentleman who was asking about how to get in contact with the Blind Country Young Voters, please check our Facebook page out or our website, which you can find with a quick Google search. Again, we want to thank all the candidates. We want to thank everyone for joining us. We really appreciate your time. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Damn.